So we're going to graph a piecewise function. And a piecewise function is where you have basically a few different pieces of a graph, and it's based on the input value. So sometimes what happens is you have an input and you have to decide, or you have a choice basically of different paths to follow. So if I give you, let's say we put in an x value of 5. Well, I come over here and I say, okay, which group does 5 belong to? Well, 5 is clearly bigger than 2, so that means I'm going to follow this set of instructions. So if I have a 5, then I would follow this path. If I were given a 0, for example, then I would say, okay, well, 0 is less than 2, so that means I would follow this set of instructions, okay, or plug it into that, that machine. So in order to graph it, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to evaluate at this 2. So at 2, even though this doesn't include it, we'll get to that in a minute, at this 2, I'm going to plug it into this function. So if my x value is 2, then if I plug it into this, I'm going to get 2 plus 1, and that gives me 3. So I have the point 2 comma 3. Okay? Now because it does not include, because it is greater than, it's not greater than or equal to, I'm going to put an open circle. So I'm just going to make a little note to myself here to put a little open circle there. Okay? Now I also want to evaluate this function at x equal to 2 in this other function right here. So I want to go to, I want to plug this 2 into this function here. So in this case, I'm going to get 2, and I'm going to plug it in this other one. So negative 2 times 2 plus 3. So I get negative 4 plus 3, which is negative 1. So I'm going to get the point 2 comma negative 1. And because it was a less than or equal to sign, this is going to be a, this is going to be a filled in dot. Okay? So these are going to be our starting points. And you guys remember, like normally when we graph these graphs, this is y equals mx plus b, so we start at our b and then we move our slope, right? So if we go to this first one right here, I want to plot a point at 2 comma 3, so that is going to be right here, and I'm going to put an open circle. That's why I put this little open circle here to remind me, because it was greater than, it did not include it. Now from that point, I want to follow this slope. So what was my slope here? Well, my slope was 1 over 1. So from that point, I am going to do at least 2 other points. I'm going to go up 1 over 1 and up 1 over 1 again. And I'm going to connect those. So we are halfway done with our graph. So do you see that we evaluated at 2 in this first graph? We decided to put an open circle because it did not, because it was greater than, not greater than or equal to. And then we followed the slope, 1 over 1. So we followed the slope to get that point and just connected them. So we're going to do the same thing on this second line over here. So it said down here to start it at 2, negative 1. So we're going to start at 2, negative 1, and that is right here. And I'm going to put a filled in dot there, right? Because it was less than or equal to. And now I am going to follow this slope. So this slope right here is, this slope right here is negative 2 over 1. So I want to go down 2 over 1, right? Well, if I go down 2 over 1, I'm going to end up here. And if I go down 2 over 1 again here, and if I connect those, but that's going to be the wrong graph because I want the points less than or equal to 2. And these are giving me x values greater than 2. And I don't want the ones greater than 2. I want to go backwards. I want to go this way. So if hopefully you remember that instead of going down 2 over 1, I can go up 2, back 1. Because remember, if I make this into a fraction, I can put that negative sign, I can make this a positive and that one a negative. So I can go up 2, back 1. And I can go up 2, back 1 again. And now I'm going to connect those, and that is my graph.